this video is literally about fat and fats. And once again, it crosses the gamut of chemistry, human anatomy, and psychology. This affects us in a lot of ways. First of all, fats kind of get a bad rap. We have to have fats. I mean, there's a certain amount of fat that we have to have. We need fat actually for insulation. Now, some of us are better insulated than others. We have to have some fat around our organs for insulation and for shock absorption. There are certain vitamins, okay, like for example, vitamin D are what they call fat soluble. They're stored in fat. So we have to have some fat. But what's the problem? The problem is that there's different kinds of fats, okay? We get too much fat. We're just once again in America, we're just a diet. We talked about, in another video, we talked about salt, how we're becoming the salt generation. We've kind of learned a lot about fats since the past couple of generations. We've learned a lot about fats. We used to take a big old frying skillet, okay, and we used to take animal lard and just put it in that skillet. And we would cook all our eggs or whatever we were cooking, eggs, meat, whatever we were cooking. And when we got done, we would just pour that, and sometimes people still do this, okay? Just pour that grease or that lard in a can, okay? And just let it set till the next time we get done. And then just grab a handful of that and put it back in that big old skillet and do it again, okay? Well, here's what we found out, and here's what we need to look at. And now the labels that are on our packaged foods, okay, tell us how much fat there is, okay, how much saturated fat there is, and now it's illegal to have trans fats, okay. So what's the difference between fats and saturated fats and trans fats? Well, I didn't draw a complete fat molecule up here, but I want you to know that that organic molecules, okay, natural things, the meats that we have, cheeses, eggs, all the different things that we have, the natural molecules are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The carbon-carbon combinations make up what we call organic molecules. Things that are living or have ever been living contain the carbon. So the single bonds in here, usually they're cyclic, which means it makes a ring. I didn't draw the whole fat molecule. I just wanted you to realize that a regular fat, okay, is going to have mainly single bonds, whereas it might have a double bond or might even come off and make different types of molecules, okay. But for the most part, a regular fat molecule is going to have single bonds, which means that as we work and we use energy, we break down that molecule, and as we break down those bonds, then we get the energy from those molecules. Fats are long-term energy, okay? So that's a good thing. Well, then when we go from regular fats we go to saturated fats have a lot of double bonds. So we use a certain amount of energy, we break down this bond, we use a little bit more energy, we break down this bond. But what happens is a saturated fat, we have to use a lot more energy to break down that bond. Well, if we're gonna be running marathons and we're gonna be working all day, or if we were back in caveman days where we chased animals all day and hunted all day and worked all day, we can break those down a lot easier. Okay. Well, then we have something called trans fats. Trans fats have a lot of triple bonds. Okay. Well, the problem with the triple bond, okay, is carbon has 4 bonding sites. So that leaves us something on this side, something over here, okay, and we end up getting a lot of triple bonds. And what happens is we found in trans fats, okay, which is your true animal lard, we found out in these trans fats that we just don't break them down. Our generation, we just don't exert enough energy that we just don't break those down. So now we're finding that the trans fats really were doing what? Because we talk about the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, the same molecules that we have in the hemoglobin in the blood, okay, that these trans fats begin to attach, okay, when we had excess fat, okay, and this isn't even talking about cholesterol, just fats, they begin to build up in our arteries and in our bloodstream, and then the cholesterol acted like a cement or a glue. And so we begin to develop, we begin to build these little particles that were restricting blood flow in our hearts. Oh, okay, so that's a problem. And the arteries that we have, we begin to develop the constriction of the cholesterol, and we get this plaque and these deposits in there. So all of a sudden, fat is a real problem. So we don't even, when we did the unit on salt, we said, here's the one that says how much salt we need. What's interesting is, there's not a set amount of fat that we need. So we don't say, we need so much fat. What we are saying is that we don't need any more trans fats. We're saying that trans fats are just totally bad, okay? So no more animal lard in the skillet. We're using vegetable fats, okay? So as we look at this, let's take a look and let's see how much fat we really have in some things, okay? So these are some really cool tubes, okay? Now this is a fast food hamburger right here, okay? It's not lean beef, it's just a fast food hamburger. 3 tubes. Okay, and these are the actual fat that's come off of those. Okay, so when we take a look at that, we have 3 tubes of fat off a fast food hamburger. Okay, so that's a lot of fat. Now, our body can break down some fats. The problem is that it's long-term energy. Okay, so the fats that we don't use, we begin to store, and that's where fats kind of get a bad rap. We need some fat, but the problem is, with fast food now, we're eating a lot more fat, okay? So this is a hamburger, okay, a fast food hamburger, all right? Now, this is if you go and you buy 3 ounces of lean ground beef, okay, and you take the fat off of your hamburger, you actually are eliminating 2/3 of the fat, okay? This is lean ground beef, okay? We go to the store, we buy lean ground beef, and then we drain the fat off of our hamburger. Unlike the hamburger here at the fast food restaurant that we just took and just literally poured the hamburger off of, okay? That we poured the fat off of. So we can actually reduce that fat by getting lean ground beef and then also taking off the fat. Now, I want you to see this. I want you to see the brown in here. Can you see the dark brown that we're coming up with? The dark brown is coming out to the top, and that is a form of saturated fat, okay, or maybe even some trans fat. Now look at this lean. See how it's completely white. There's absolutely no dark yellow in there. We don't have any saturated fats. It's just it's not that it's totally good for us, okay, all right. But we're starting to eliminate. Remember, we have the regular fats, and then we have the saturated fat. So this is kind of interesting. Let's look at some of the rest of these, okay? So there's a hamburger, okay, and here's lean. This is the lean ground beef, okay? All right, this is a hot dog, all right? Now the hot dog's got quite a bit of fat in it, okay? So it's kind of interesting, all right? Now this is a comparison of whole milk versus skim milk. So skim milk, we literally take the fat out, and you see there's just a little bit of fat in the skim milk. So this is whole milk versus skim milk. So we literally take when they say skim milk, it's because we take that milk and we swirl it, okay, to where we separate the fat out, and then we skim off what's on the top. All right. Now then we move on, okay. Then we move on to this one, okay, and this is 1 ounce of cheese. It's also 1 ounce of bologna, which is not quite as common of a lunch meat anymore, okay? But 1 ounce of cheese, so we've got quite a bit of fat. Now, what's this one here? This is kind of interesting. It doesn't have a lot. That's actually fish, okay? So that's the same 3 ounce serving of fish. Now, we look, there's a little bit of saturated fat in there, but we have something different. This is an omega-3 fat, okay? So some saturated fats are really actually good for you. They're called omega-3, and they actually reduce the cholesterol in your body. So what happens with an omega-3 is they're oxygen rich. So an omega-3 actually has the extra bonds of oxygen. A lot of times it'll even look like this, and it'll actually have extra oxygen in there, which allows you to actually break down the cholesterol in your body. There's certain things Fish is a good one. As a matter of fact, fish oil has a lot of omega-3. When you see omega-3 fats, it'll say it has fats. A lot of nuts have omega-3. So what's the purpose of doing this? The purpose of doing this is to look at this and become aware, okay, that we have 3 different kinds of fats. We have the regular fats, we have saturated fats, and then we have trans fats. Trans fats are a problem because of the triple bond. We look at how much fat's in something, and then we say to ourselves, about how much fat should we have? Well, the average size serving piece of meat that we should have, should be about the size of our palm. Okay? So if that's a hamburger patty, okay, if that's a hamburger patty, then we say to ourselves, now I didn't say it could be this thick, okay, all right, but it's about this size. And the thing about it is what are we doing? Why are the fast foods having so much more fat in them? Okay? As a matter of fact, McDonald's even had a deal, and they don't do it anymore, but McDonald's was actually adding hamburger meat to their French fries at one time. Why? Because we're becoming addicted to what? The taste of the fat. We're like that lard made this taste really good. So somebody says, oh, it's low fat, it doesn't taste good. Well, what's happened is we've developed a taste for the fat. Now, it's really kind of ironic that the very thing that's causing heart disease and the very thing that's really causing us a problem, we have developed an acquired taste for. 2 things. Acquired taste for what? Fat, and acquired taste for salt. And it's really interesting because the natural things, okay, if I go and I butcher my own cow, okay, and I ground the beef up from that, I don't have very much fat in that. We've actually added that fat from animal fat. We've actually gone and we've got animal fat, also known as lard, and we've added that to our meats and to our eggs and to our cheese and to our whatever we're cooking. We add a little bit of fat because we have developed a taste for that. So I want to talk to you, just wanted to do this video on fat and just show you that there is a big difference. It doesn't mean that all fats are good. Do we need fats? Yes, we need some fats. Why? For insulation, and then there's certain vitamins that are fat soluble. But we have to realize that there's different kinds of fats. Once again, we have regular fats, saturated fats, and trans fats. Trans fats now, we say shouldn't be in anything. I went to the store, it was a college town, and they had these honey buns. And they no longer could sell them anymore because they had trans fat. So I picked them up, and they were selling them for 10 cents a piece, and college kids were coming in buying them out of all these. But they were on the last day that they could sell them because the Food and Drug Administration, which monitors what we can sell in the United States and what's healthy and what's not, took the trans fat off the market. So before they did, people still had a surplus. They gave them until a certain day to sell them. Well, these honey buns had 45 grams of fat in one honey bun. Well, that's not healthy. Okay, that's not healthy. But what was really interesting was not only did it have the 40-some grams of fat, okay, it also had 18 grams of trans fat in it. So that was really awful because a trans fat, we're probably not ever going to exert enough energy to use it. Why do we need fats? We need fats to do what? Because it's long-term energy. So if we never use that energy, then we're going to build that up, and we're going to build that up, and we're going to build that up and become unhealthy. So once again, just a little bit on fats, and this kind of is a complementary one to the ones with salt. So we're trying to really watch in terms of the chemistry and the human anatomy and the psychology. We're looking at the effects of too much salt, and in this case, too much fat. So think about it, adjust your lifestyle accordingly, and as you go throughout life, remember being educated is an important thing.